The Toronto Blue Jays are getting ready to play against the Chicago Cubs in about an hour and a half. So hopefully they can keep the winning streak going. But we got some updates on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette to talk to you guys about. And Vladdy, we all know that he's going to get paid handsomely once he does hit free agency. But is it going to be by the Blue Jays? That's the big question mark. And what does that contract look like? We'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as a positive injury update on Bo Bichette. So we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And Blue Jays are looking to keep the winning streak going today against the Chicago Cubs. They're starting a three-game set in Wrigley Field. It's going to be a lot of fun. They haven't played there in what seems like a while, and it's one of the most beautiful ballparks in the game. So it'll be fun just for pure aesthetic reasons to watch those two teams go at it. But Nick, we all know about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We all know about what he's been doing at the plate, and he's the hottest hitter in baseball right now, and it isn't particularly close. And the numbers that he's been putting up since the All-Star break, he might be on pace to have the best second half in history, in MLB history. And that's better than Barry Bonds. That's better than any player that has ever lived. And I'm talking about OPS. He may not reach the 33 second half homers that Barry Bonds had in that record breaking season. But I guarantee that he'll probably get over that 30 to 35 mark for the season. And he's just tearing the cover off the ball right now, which is why he's going to get paid a ridiculous amount in free agency when we didn't really think that was possible just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and some new reports have come out revealing some predictions on his contract front. Let's just dive right into it. And obviously, it has pretty big implications for the Jays because if they don't re-sign him in the offseason, this upcoming season, he is bound for free agency, and that would be a pretty devastating blow for the Toronto Blue Jays. So you can see this. What will Guerrero's contract look like next? Like you mentioned, Peter, one of the MLB's hottest hitters with a crazy slash line here. Certainly looks like he's going to be getting a lot of money, and we know that Jeff Passan a week ago on the Blaine Barker said that no first base, or a couple weeks ago, no first baseman will get 300, and then he backtracked saying 300 might be the floor for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And Peter, you look at some of the richest first base contracts in MLB history. Vladdy seems ready to tear that up, or at least get a contract similar to Miguel Cabrera, an AAV of 30 plus million here. And you look at a lot of the first basemen, some of them aged well, some of them definitely didn't age well. And you look at right now the richest position player contracts and seeing where Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could fit into this. It's going to be very interesting. And a report came out from the MLB. I got on the MLB Network. He basically said that he's projecting Vladdy to get a minimum of $30 million a year this offseason, and maybe even at 8 years for $30 million, or maybe even 10 at $300 million total at a 30 AAV.
Well, let's take a look at some of those first baseman contracts right there, Nick, and look at the ages which they signed it at.
Yep.
So 32 years old for Pujols. You could tell that that was going to be a disaster from the start of that. Miguel Cabrera, 31 years old. That's a case of paying a guy for a player that he has been for the past decade. Whereas for Vladdy, you're going to be paying him for those prime years. It's very rare that a guy hits free agency at 26 years old, which is what Vladdy is going to be. And it just shows you that obviously he came up early to the big leagues, so he made his debut as a 20-year-old, full time as a 20-year-old, and he came up as a 19-year-old, and he's going to get paid for the remainder of his prime years. And first basemen tend to age a little bit better than maybe some other positions like the outfield or pitchers or whatnot. So he's going to be 26 when he signs this deal, which is the youngest on this list. And you look at some of the other totals there. I mean, it's going to the game is in a better place right now in terms of money as well.
Yeah.
So you got to believe that he's going to break that barrier of 300 million. It's just a question of how long the contract is going to be for. Is it going to be 8 years so he can hit free agency again and then get paid when he's 33, or is it going to be for 10 years or 12 years and he rides out the remainder of his career wherever he signs? That's going to be the big clincher for the next deal, but you got to believe that it'll be over $300, $300 million, definitely over $300, that's for sure. But like I mentioned earlier, the age of all of those players that signed there, Nick, like 32 years old for Pujols, 31 years old for Cabrera, 28 for Joey Votto. I mean, those are deals that paid off for some of the franchises because they got some good years out of those guys, but it didn't really age too well once they got into their late 30s, and you won't have that problem with Vladdy if you sign him to a 10 plus year deal. He's still going to theoretically be able to produce at the age of 35 or 36 or however long you sign him for.
Yeah, and he's positioning himself, like you see in the bottom paragraph, even though it is a first baseman, he's well positioned to be the to shatter the deal of the richest first baseman in history, and it makes sense given his track record and even given the way that inflation has worked around the MLB and all these players and how much everybody is getting paid. And you look at the stats here, he's having a really, really, really good year. One of the best, I mean, the second best of his career, one of the best in baseball, a 950 OPS. He continues to tear the cover off the ball, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is one of 18 players ever to have 160 doubles, 150 home runs to their age 25 season. And you look at the names on the list. I mean, we don't have to tell you guys how great he has been throughout his entire career, but sometimes, especially given the way the last couple seasons has went, it's we forget sometimes how good he is and how young he still is, being only 25 years old. And since July 14th, so a bit over a month ago, he's slashing. He's a 309 WRC plus. So Peter, again, one of the best players in baseball, been the best hitter in baseball the past month alongside Aaron Judge, and even Juan Soto is starting to pick it up. But like, he is positioning himself to shatter this AAV. And again, I think 30 million is the minimum. It's the threshold. And I think if they can reach 30 million per year, I think Vladdy will return to Toronto, especially because he kind of wants to. But that needs to get done this offseason. I don't think they can wait until free agency and have a bunch of teams going for him.
Yeah, and I think 30 million is pretty fair as well, considering what he does for your franchise off the field. He's become a great ambassador for the Blue Jays. Like, he's synonymous with Toronto baseball. You think the Blue Jays, you immediately think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And maybe that wasn't the case when he first came up, but he's one of the more marketable players in the league. He's got a Hall of Fame name, that's for sure. And if he keeps up this track record and if he keeps up this production, he will be in the Hall of Fame someday. And I know we like to crap on the guy for a couple of down seasons, but those down seasons still produced some pretty decent numbers. You'd like to see more. You'd like to see this kind of production all year long, and you'd like to see it for the rest of his career because he's got that talent. And I saw this interesting thread that Chris Black made about how he's really crushing non-fastballs. And a big knock on Vladdy was that he's not geared up for the fastball and that he's not able to do damage on the fastball. And it wasn't until long ago that he actually hit his first home run of the season off a fastball that was 95 plus miles an hour. So he's starting to do damage to all pitches. It's impossible to get him out right now. And teams are trying to game plan for him. They're still pitching to him for some reason. I don't know why, but they're trying to game plan for Vladdy, and it's just not working. He's getting to every single pitch. And I know his numbers in 2021 were better than they are now, but I've never seen him this locked in for such a long stretch. And the batting average too, like it was in the 260s like a couple of months ago, or 270s, hovering around that mark, and it's just gotten better and better and better. And the slugging percentage as well. He's not just hitting singles. He's not slapping singles to right field. He's slugging home runs. He's pounding doubles for left center, right center. Like, he's doing damage on every single pitch. And even when they're trying to bust him inside, which they're doing more often than they ever have in Vladdy's career, he's getting to that pitch. And he's even inside outing it to right field. Like, it's incredible how well he's been playing lately. And I've never seen this from Vladdy before. Like, he's really figured something out here, and it was not for a lack of talent. Maybe he was just doing something differently, but he's found that groove yet again. And I believe that this is the production that we'll see for the better part of a decade if the Blue Jays get this deal done. And they need to get this deal done because they need to keep Vladdy in town.
Yeah, and he looks as good, if not better, than 2021, at least over the past few months here. And him having an 8 or a 323 batting average, if you rewind to earlier in April, he was down to 206, I believe, at his lowest. So it's a crazy turnaround for him. And let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. And quickly, before we wrap it up, we do have a Bo Bichette update here. It just came out. So Bo Bichette has started to do some baseball activities down in Dunedin. He will likely ramp up down in Florida for a while, then check back with the Jays to evaluate a rehab assignment when it gets to that point. And with the 45 games left, or 46 games left, I don't know how many games he's going to get into, but I wouldn't mind seeing Bo Bichette for a few games, see what he's like. But I don't know, any quick thoughts on this before we wrap up? It's positive news, at least.
Yeah, it's positive. And I don't know. I don't know if it's the right move to bring him back this season. I would rather him just get through in one piece and come back strong next year. It's no secret that he has been the biggest disappointment on this Blue Jays team this season. What does he have for the year? 4 home runs or something, or 6 home runs, something like that. And yeah, he's missed a lot of time. He just never really got into a groove. But we know what kind of hitter Bichette is when he's locked in. And at no point this season did I feel like he was locked in. Hopefully, he can come back next year and you know, be locked in from the start because he just seemed a little bit disinterested this year. And I didn't like that personally. I hope that he can figure that out and be the guy that the Blue Jays need him to be if they want to compete next season. And yeah, we talk about the disappointment and stuff, but if you had a healthy Bo Bichette this year, and if you had a Bo Bichette doing both things, I think the story would have been a lot more different. I know the bullpen sucks and there's been a lot of terrible components to this team, but if you had Bo at 100%, I really believe that the story could have been different because he does make an impact. And even though when he gets hot, he can't really produce to the level that Vladdy is producing right now, just because he doesn't have the power that Vladdy does, but he's still one of the more important players to their team in baseball. And it just sucks that he never got going. Hopefully he can, and hopefully he comes back healthy next year and motivated and helps the Blue Jays get back to the playoffs because that's where they were supposed to be this year, and they fell flat on their faces.
Yeah, his future might be in jeopardy with the team this offseason as well, which is something we'll discuss. But I think ultimately they'll probably keep him around. But if Bo Bichette was healthy and they had this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the start, and even if they would have played guys like Spencer Horwitz a little bit earlier, this season could have been very different because the current team right now, yeah, they're probably still not a playoff contender, but they're at least hell of a lot more fun to watch and a lot better at baseball than the team was with the Kevin Kiermaier, no disrespect to any of them, and all those older players that ultimately got shipped out. But we're going for 4 wins in a row, Peter, and hopefully they can do that. The game is on Apple TV, unfortunately, so we'll hopefully fight through that and see you guys tomorrow. So have a good one. We'll see you soon.